Okay, that's it. We're warming up. Episode starting in a bit. And yep, it looks like my nose has no blood.
Get over it.
Because it's so pale. Like super pale skin. Okay, we're manually resharing our links. So if you show up in the stream and we don't seem to be minding you, please know we will know you're there as long as you start posting comments.
Yep. As usual, we cannot see actual viewers. But if you comment, we'll see that. So,
Right.
yeah.
And yep, my nose is acting up again. On cue. This episode is brought to you by the letter on cue.
That's not a letter. What are you teaching the world? Don't dishonor Sesame Street that way.
Okay, resharing the link.
Oh, yeah, and I haven't put wavelength on BGG.
It's okay. No rush.
Yeah. It's just fun when I feel it helps over time.
Okay. Talking about tea tonight. The real tea. And just maybe.
Oh, did I tag you in the post?
Okay, resharing. Hey Andre, glad to have you. Hope you're doing well. And I do appreciate your magenta masked photo.
You better. We help pick it out.
So Andre, do I look like my nose doesn't have circulation? It's like super pale.
Oh my god. Wait, coming notification.
Yeah, it's a mid.
I get these weird Facebook moments where like I can't interact with the chat and then I just refresh the whole window. So that
I get those a lot. Like you're clicking the text area, but it's not
yeah,
registering.
or like it won't let me
But then it
scroll.
registers anywhere else. Yeah, I get those moments, and I hate it. I keep thinking it's my mouse being a problem.
No,
Andre says, I has no work. Lighting is okay. Thank you for letting us know lighting is okay. As to work, I'm a bit curious, but I think I remember now you telling us about that.
or it's just today specifically.
So while waiting, oh my god, in the heights. Oh my god, in the heights.
Oh,
Oh
super
my
excited.
God, in the heights.
Super
Super excited.
I mean, like
Yes.
to be fair, the earlier trailers are already quite good,
Mhm.
but then I think it because those are always like clip shows, and you could see like different moments,
Skip training. There you go.
different moments that we can kind of guess what songs they are.
Mhm.
But then to really see a full song play out,
Yeah, and
a full opening sequence.
so
Yeah.
from the trailer, we were excited because we could see, okay, it's not super realistic. There's a little bit of magical moments, but we were still worried. How will they approach this? How much will they change? With that 8-minute intro, oh my god, they found that beautiful sweet spot that avoids what Cats did and what Phantom of the Opera tried to do.
Oof.
They evaded the Les Miserables problem, and
Of hyper realism.
yeah, and they kind of found that same niche that made Sweeney Todd work.
Yes.
No?
Yes.
Wherein it feels real, but there's still that wink to the viewer that no, it's not. No, we're like
Yeah, because I think
we're like doing impossible things anyway. Still,
I think any good uh, movie adaptation of a musical stage play thing should embrace the fact that it is a musical.
Yeah.
And because even then, I
Excuse
have
me.
like a lot more respect for like the classic like
Yeah.
MGM sort of big studio musicals or things like the original West Side Story and stuff because they just leaned into it that it is a musical and you have to go with it.
Mm-hmm.
So very promising. Of course, it's weird distribution. I think it's going to I mean, it's going to be in theaters in the US and on HBO
Mhm.
Max. And then we sometimes get certain HBO Max releases on the HBO Go app, but then I haven't seen promotions related to it, so
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be anytime soon. We're probably going to get delayed. So like Wonder Woman 84 only came out on HBO Go recently.
Mhm.
So I just remembered I haven't set the internet priority. So let me fix that before we start.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So Andre asked if we're gonna if we'll tell you guys the tea later. Okay.
What is anyone else viewing? Because weird, they're saying viewer counts go up and
Yeah,
down.
that's probably people jumping into YouTube or tweaking from Facebook. But please, if you're there, do comment, join the stream. We love interacting with the viewers. We'll be starting in less than 2 minutes. Excuse me.
Yeah, let me just
Nasa mid ako.
drink
Yeah.
water or pant like a dog to help clear your throat without like doing too much sound.
Hey, Mitch. So while waiting, crazy last night.
Oh my god!
After the episode, we find out our door has refused to open. Tried the key, didn't
Our
work.
bedroom door.
Yeah. Tried the key with a bit of force, still didn't work. Then tried to, see if I can magic it away with all the knocking and stuff, and
No,
still
I
didn't
was
work.
like, this is just called the building. But
I
then
told you to call the building, and you didn't want to. So
no, I
ended
said
up
also
calling.
it's like because I know you're also gonna try to. Don't blame me.
I was like, I know, let's call now, and you still didn't. I'm like, okay, I'll call.
No, I just didn't want to do the calling. Of course, I was totally in agreement to call the building, but then like I just didn't want to do the calling. There's a difference.
So finally, the guy shows up, and he tries the key, and it doesn't work. And then
He tries tinkering. He tries to pick the lock first.
yeah, and it
Like-
still doesn't work. So finally, we give him the go signal that we'll have it
Destroy the
uh,
lock. Destroy the knob.
and we'll just replace the doorknob ourselves because it's not like we're gonna contact the owner and wait till when before we can go back to our room, right?
But then he starts to have difficulty trying to get the door open, and then it reached a point where he peeled away parts like a can opener,
Mhm.
peeled away, and then
Which felt wrong. I felt like if he removed the doorknob a certain way, it would have disassembled.
maybe.
So I
maybe.
feel like he kind of messed that up as well.
Yeah, and then he's like he felt like he had the wrong tool, so he said he'd be back. And then he comes back with like X-ray film
hmm
and stuff, trying to snake it into the door.
This plastic acetate thing. That
No,
he
it was literally an
It
X-ray.
was X-ray. I didn't
It was
know
an
this.
X-ray.
Someone's X-ray.
Yes, it's not one of ours.
So he tried to do that to jiggy the door open. Didn't work. Asked for an old credit card.
Hey, jiggy the door.
Asked for an old credit card. I do have old credit cards, but I didn't want to give that. So I instead gave my old, supposedly UMID. It was the old universal ID thing that didn't really catch on.
Okay.
And then that didn't work. Then painstakingly, he slowly worked on destroying the lock.
Yeah, he slowly disassembled the doorknob, and it reached the point, and then really, we could see the inside, and the lock
Still
had
refused.
somehow fully detached from the
Both
knob
knobs,
mechanism,
yes.
and that's why it wasn't working. So
Yes,
so,
there
yeah.
is that hole that allows you to disassemble the doorknob. Hey, Noel.
But maybe it's on the other side.
No. It's always on the other side. Because the hole on the doorknob on one side, you can remove that casing to expose the screws.
Yeah.
Doorknob on the other side doesn't have that, but then has that hole that you jiggy to pop it release. And it's annoying because I just kept chopping at it, and I was so tempted to, screwdriver, hammer to pop it open, but
Well, he got there in the end. And that's what matters. Even
Yeah.
though we finished past midnight, it's quite the adventure. Plus, he didn't want to make too much noise because it was late. It's like, oh, okay.
yeah, because he could have just gotten power tools, and he was like, "Di maingay kasi ganyan gantong oras na." And I was so tempted to say, "Hey, we don't like have neighbors near us," and in those few times we have noticed our neighbors, it's because maingay sila. So
Or it smells like
anyway,
they're smoking pot.
yeah. Anyway, door finally opens, and yeah, we have the remnants of the doorknob,
Just in case.
and that's the tea of last night. But we shall start tonight's episode.
Oh, should we get into that phrase too? Anyway, we'll see how that goes. But, I'm of course. We spent all this time talking, and I didn't prep. Good job, Rafi. Good job. Okay.
Ah!
Such
Okay,
an
we
involved-
almost started with my timer at 1 hour 30 minutes.
because we're an oven, apparently.
We'll be right back after this intro.
Oh yeah! Really great!
This is Toby.
Okay, and this is Rafi.
If it's your first time here, welcome to Baduy Pride, our little space on the internet where we talk about anything we want.
Just completely unscripted and not entirely accurate, but at least it's honest. Join us as we talk about everything and anything. Random live.
And if it's not your first time here, thank you so much for joining us. You're making fun of my delivery.
Am I?
Yes. But, this is because you had me watching Friends. You know how many episodes we've gone through in the last few weeks? How many episodes have we gone through? We've reached the breakup.
Rachel and Ross
We've reached the breakup.
We're broken up already.
We literally just watched the breakup before starting this
Ooh,
episode.
that was heavy.
It was pretty heavy. It was nice that you really felt for both sides. You really felt they were both being stupid, but they both had points.
Yeah.
And of course, you parallel that to the waxing joke. So, yeah.
Awesome. Anyway, we're not talking about Friends today.
We're not, aren't we? See? Keep saying I'm Chandler. There you go.
I didn't reiterate it.
Sure, Monica. So, okay, where were we? Tonight's episode is our 211th episode, and since it's a Tuesday, it's got to be about food.
At least that's been the pattern over the recent months. Like we've been focusing food topics on Tuesdays, and we know a lot of you like food stuff because it's more. I guess it's more general. We already did coffee, so now we're talking about tea.
And tea is a topic that has been sent to us by Mitch.
Yes.
Once again, Mitch has sent us the topic with such a beautiful, lengthy title. I'll get to that. For now, to start talking about the topic.
I was gonna pull up the lengthy.
Oh, okay.
Tea is weird because it's just weird water, and then what makes people decide what you I don't normally get into Tobyisms, but then there's one of those times where I really wonder who decided to run water through leaves and drink it.
Hey, Mr. Shark. Yeah? Is that Rocky hoping to define things? Ah!
Yes.
So Mitch sent us the topic, and did you read it? You didn't read it. You didn't read the whole thing.
Well, you brought out the shark, so I had to participate in your little sketch, right?
So the whole topic was suggested as spilling the tea with teas, origins and definition, tea versus chai versus chai tea, insert the milk teas, are you a purist tea person or okay for the fusion teas, how to make the perfect cup of tea,
With a YouTube
YouTube
video.
link, hot versus cold, smiley, yes, I am a tita. So,
I don't think Tita is going to catch on though, unlike Plantita. But hey, okay. People are already saying. So Andre likes tea drinks, lalo na chai tea ng Starbucks.
mhm,
Mitch thinks tea is beautiful. Noel says he doesn't actually like tea,
mhm.
and then Mitch is already trying to get started on definition and says he thinks it started in China. Noel, especially the milk tea, I don't get it. I understand. I don't get milk tea
And
either.
then Andre hopes there's Uncle Iroh references here, and now there is because
You said it. So congratulations, self-fulfilling prophecy.
So first of all, tea.
All right.
The tea on tea is that it's an aromatic beverage prepared by pouring hot water or boiling water over cured or fresh leaves of a certain shrub in China.
Camellia sinensis.
Sinensis.
Okay.
After water, it is the most widely consumed drink in the world, with different types, from the Chinese greens and Darjeeling to, well, sorry, I was expecting a list, but it wasn't. But yeah, so it's definitely first recorded in China in 59 BC,
Oof.
though probably originated earlier. Okay, so generally that's it. Oh, there's just a photo of the tea plant that was the main definition.
So, what was your first exposure to tea?
Lipton.
Lipton yellow label
Yes.
black tea.
Yes.
I was going to say the same
The
thing.
Lipton teas were my first exposure, and
It's not fun.
yeah, it wasn't good. I never liked the flavor, and I always was weirded out because I remember it was like a status symbol to have Lipton tea.
It was like very common.
So there was that. Oh, we have Lipton. Oh, Lipton. Yeah. So I was like, Lipton. And then when I tried it, and then
Me, my exposure
Yeah.
but it was also Lipton, but then it was always like if you had a tummy ache,
mhm.
and then there'll be always like have some tea, and it felt like punishment. Like, oh, what is this? This is really terrible stuff. I mean, like, to be fair, like over the years, like I kind of get
Mhm.
the Lipton profile. It's definitely one of the more bitter
Mhm.
teas. But it's like, ooh, very, very rough.
Noel
Very rough.
shares that he likes the house tea in Chinese restaurants only because it helps digest the food better, and that's the point, right?
Yeah.
Tea in Chinese restaurants is actually really help you digest.
It's a nice way to end the meal. And I agree that, the tea in Chinese restaurants feels so much more pleasant, and you just kind of dodge the leaves that are there, the leaf bits that sometimes float around.
Mitch mentions Lipton tea, that big box. I don't recall the big box.
It was basta it wasn't like the current tea, the Twinnings teas we have now are like normally a more rectangular thing. Twinnings was like a square box,
Mhm.
and it was really the big yellow
Yeah, but
label.
Lipton, I remember Lipton to be more compact. I don't recall it having a big box.
Oh, I remember we would get the
Okay.
box. We would get the box, and then it would be like lines and lines of it. And then I know now that there are smaller sizes, but original Lipton was like, ooh, it's the big, and you bring it out like, ooh, let's have tea. And then I would try adding like a teaspoon of sugar.
Mhm.
It could only slightly help.
So Andre mentions his first exposure besides iced tea is C2. Now, I will state this. It shook my world to realize iced tea was tea in ice and sugar.
So much sugar.
Because I honestly had that, parang, what are we drinking? It's tea. Parang I prefer iced tea. And then at one point, someone's like, Eddie, let's you put it in the ice and put syrup. And I'm like, huh? And then when I tried it, oh. So that shocked me. I never knew till that day that iced tea was literally cold tea with sugar.
To be fair, you best appreciate this if you go to like a more Asian-y, especially Japanese restaurants,
Mhm.
and you ask for cold tea or iced tea, and you get literally green tea on ice.
Mhm.
Like, remember, what was the Sakai
Yes.
Sushi,
Yeah.
the rotisserie sushi place when it was still around?
Mhm.
You could either get hot or cold tea, and that was your decision for life. Like the rest of the meal, you're stuck with whatever tea you
Mhm.
chose. And that it was really unsweetened green tea with ice.
So for me, iced tea is of course Nestea, which
Yes.
was the big thing
Oh my
with
god!
the powder
Yes.
on those containers, and then like Milo, at a certain point, maninigas siya, but
Yeah.
it's not yummy to eat.
No. Very much no. And then it reaches that, because I guess because of exposure to air, then it already responds to moisture.
Yes.
Then it hardens. So
Yes.
even if you put those hard bits into
It
water,
doesn't dissolve
it
anymore.
does not dissolve.
And it doesn't eat nicely either. So there was a question posed by Andre. Do you guys think tea is better in the morning than coffee? Mitch says yes.
I'm really a coffee person.
Noel says no. Rocky says coffee, so it's a no. Me, if it was iced tea, I wouldn't mind. admittedly, because it has that nice refreshing thing. But if it's like hot tea, no. For me, hot tea is before you go to sleep,
It's
after you have
comforting.
had a big dinner. If it were like the ginger one, then it's after you've been talking for so long, so you want to rest your throat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, okay, to be totally fair, I'm also the kind of person who could have coffee before bed. And then I'm like, okay, but I do feel like coffee still is like better for me for a kickstart in the morning, and then and at night you cool down. But it's funny because there are a lot of tea variants that are said to have more caffeine than coffee does.
Hmm.
So technically, you could get a bigger kick out of it, a bigger caffeine kick with tea. So that always fascinated me. Um, Andre says that Nestle's the best iced tea. He thinks the culture of iced tea started in the southern states in the U.S. Well, I don't know, but it's definitely a big stereotype.
Yes.
Southern sweet teas.
Because it was the closest thing they could do to having tropical drinks.
Mm,
Whereas us, if you talk about countries near the tropics, would have fruit juices and all that. For them, the summer drink was iced tea. So I love this map, and I want to share this with you so you can share it online. But it's a map that separates the parts of the world that call it tea compared to those who call it cha or chai.
chai. Okay.
So
Noel says he thinks the only bottled iced tea, a C2, that he liked was in Japanese or Korean brand because it's not too sweet. Yung C2 because it's like sugar with a dash of tea flavoring. Yeah, I get that now. And like a lot of a lot of the tea based drinks that you can get at the supermarket or convenience stores
Mhm.
are super sugar delivery systems.
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy. Yeah,
and that still continues now, even to milk teas and all those
Yeah.
other tea based drinks. They're really all just mostly sugar with a dash of something. I mean, come on, iced coffee is like barely an espresso.
It's
with-
so much milk.
Yeah.
So much milk and sugar.
So this is the map that I found online that I found very interesting. That tries to separate which people choose to call it tea or cha.
But the implication is that they're the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That chai and tea are just different names for the same thing.
Mhm.
Is that a fair statement? So let's the tea versus chai.
So starting in the early 17th century, the Dutch played a dominant role in the tea trade. They borrowed the word for tea from the Min Chinese. But then, if you look at the Chinese character for tea,
cha,
yeah,
which we've been seeing a lot in our Duolingo lessons, which I haven't done today.
so that was acquired during the Tang Dynasty. And even that has different varieties in Chinese. So for Mandarin, it's cha. But for the Wu Chinese, it's zo or zo. For the Xiang Chinese dialect, it's za. And then when you go to Min Chinese, that's when it becomes ta or ti. So you can see how it even has those differences there. There were other ancient words for tea. Um, some even go as far as tu and min.
Okay,
But cha seems to be the more common one, with the southern coast the ones using te.
so there's another article that's like points out that chai is the Indian word for tea. In
Mhm.
India, chai simply means tea, but in the West, outside of India, it refers specifically to spiced Indian style tea
Mhm.
that is tea with traditional Indian spices and milk, which is also referred to as masala chai, which is more popular in India than coffee. The popularity of chai tea is spreading rapidly to the rest of the world and has taken on some changes. So it's funny. It's one of those cases where, if we go back to India, all teas are chai.
Mhm.
But then because it when it went outside, then they're looking at this particular flavor profile.
Mhm.
So it's still tea. It's just with added spices. So but it's a misnomer to think that it's completely different. It's
Yeah.
just it's a different preparation.
And a lot of that can be because of how either it's presented or
The
how
branding,
it's commonly
yeah.
referred to. So again, that map. That's why I love that map, because it kind of just shows you
yeah.
how there have been certain areas where it was infiltrated and it was more commonly called tea, and supposedly,
with the mnemonic chai if by land, tea if by sea.
Mhm.
That's interesting. Okay.
So tea supposedly is divided into categories based on how it was processed.
Mm.
You have white, yellow, green, oolong, if I pronounce that correctly, black, and dark or post fermented tea, as they call it. So white tends to be unoxidized or wilted, as they call it. Yellow is unwilted, unoxidized, and allowed to yellow. Green is unwilted and oxidized.
But I guess didn't get all the
Yeah.
yellow.
Oolong is wilted, bruised, and partially oxidized. Black is wilted, crushed, fully oxidized. You typically called red tea in some parts of China. And then the post fermented or dark tea tends to be the green tea that's been allowed to compost, which is a very black tea in Chinese culture.
Mm. So and then like if many of us who encountered Lipton's yellow tag first, and that's a black tea,
Hmm.
which is quite bitter, quite strong. And then I always felt like it coated your mouth after like if there are certain things that you were pretty sure would stain your teeth, and that definitely
Yeah.
felt that
So
way.
Kenny mentioned so chai tea is redundant
It seems to be.
unless it's you just defining what type of tea it is because it's the spiced tea. So
Yeah.
it's the chai tea.
I mean, like, and I've had chai tea lattes at Starbucks, and it definitely has a distinct sort of.
So it's as bad as
taste.
saying like show my dumplings.
Again, show my dim sum.
Yeah,
Yeah,
something
something
like
like that. So okay, something like that. Okay. Um. So Andre speculates most people's awakening with tea nowadays is milk tea or boba drinks. Probably. I mean, like,
Well, probably because they don't know about iced tea and all the others that are also tea.
I still feel iced tea is a bit more prevalent
Mm-mm.
than milk tea. Still, I mean, milk tea is definitely popular, but then milk tea also has a bit of a cost association with it. I mean, weirdly enough.
Just to keep in mind, iced tea does include usually C2. There's a lot of energy drinks and non-energy drinks or fruity drinks, but actually have a
The
tea
Nesty
base.
empire continues.
So you actually might be drinking iced tea without realizing it's iced tea because they're more focused on something else.
Mm-mm. Or they just think about them as juices.
Mm.
Because remember how like Nesty would have there was the lemon was the classic,
Yeah, and then
and
they had
then
orange.
they had orange and like calamansi or something, and like that was weird. Yeah, so there is that. So yeah, my first exposure was always felt medicinal
Mm.
because it was you have a tummy ache, and the speculation was because like you ate too fast, you ate too much.
Yeah.
So have some tea to help settle you down, and then ironically that would still send me to the bathroom. But
Now, interestingly, when people talk about tea as tea, everyone thinks of the tea bag.
that is true.
And interestingly, the tea bag or the sachet was introduced by Lipton. And surprisingly, that is listed as 1996. So I'm a bit, shocked that it's
Well,
that recent.
The pyramid tea bag specifically. Okay.
Whereas the drawstring ones are as far as 1907. And they were really meant as a means of distribution. They weren't really meant as the way to serve it. And then consumers started to just leave it in the bag when they use it. So it didn't really start as put the bag in. It was pour it out, but they're in these small containers. So that's an interesting thought. How is British tea different from Asian tea?
You do realize that. Sorry, and I'll double check that. But isn't TWG a Singaporean? Yeah, TWG is a Singaporean company. So, but I was just there is no singular flavor though. Like I wouldn't say British tea is just one flavor. You
Yeah.
would go back to the earlier reference of color because the color, quote unquote, the type of tea has a bigger impact on flavor than its point of origin.
And then one thing to consider is that I think part of the difference is what is the expected use or time it is used. For the United Kingdom, however, for example, it's customary to have it as with afternoon cakes,
Tea time.
or with cream, tea, scones, and the like. Whereas for let's say in more Asian countries, it's practically just water. It's the replacement of water, and even when you're full and you'll have tea, Normally, it's because you just normally drink something after you eat.
我喝茶. I-
Wupuhucha. Anyway, um, yeah. So I love the other ways tea has been prepared according to this list. So, wait, where's that? There's the one I was looking at earlier. So there's one called gunpowder. So the connection keeps breaking when I'm the one talking. Stars, 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 stars.
Okay, we're back.
And we're back. So yeah, as I was saying, so that Mali gunpowder tea almost sounds like
A whiskey flight.
because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
have increasing teas.
Okay, okay. Oh, Rehan's here too. It says mapait ang tea. I think, I used to think that also because Lipton was like your main exposure,
Mhm.
and then like Chinese green teas at Chinese restaurants, and then it wasn't until later on like you discover things
The
like
floral ones.
well the floral ones and then the
The
more
fruit.
fruity ones. So like for the longest time, I've been a big fan of Twinnings 4 red fruits.
Yes.
It is sweet on its own. It's probably not keto now that I think about it.
Sadly.
So, but it doesn't need sugar, and it's such a nice tea flavor.
Mhm.
Very comforting, very nicely warming. And then we have things like the ginger
Mhm.
and lemon tea, which is really it's fancy salabat.
Which they basically does tell you if you think you don't have tea but you drink salabat, guess what?
It's probably still a tea experience. Okay. Kenny was asking, do you reuse your tea bags? Only to the extent of I will top up a mug once. So we'll probably use each tea bag technically twice.
And that's only at the time of drinking.
Yeah, we don't
store
park it
and then use it again
No, no,
some
no.
other day. Um,
It's really I leave the heater on and then I'll like we have our first cup of tea and then I'll put more hot water and drink again. So nothing beyond one usage, I think. Um Andre likes mint tea. Mitch agrees, 4 red fruits. Yeah, the 4 red fruits blend, it's so comforting.
Hmm.
Noel, sugar cubes or honey? The teas that we have now, no sugar. No sugar, no
in
honey.
the past, sugar. We never really had honey.
A bit, but then not so much. I was just well, at least when it was 4 red fruits, I never added sugar.
I think the only time, no, not even, because that was syrup.
Which one?
Cocoa Ichiban.
Yeah, but that's like the sugar, the
Diba?
sugar water thing.
Their milk tea thing was sugar, the syrup. It wasn't honey. I think there was only one time I had honey. I think that was when we were at Singapore.
Mm-mm.
When we had that tea and the scones.
That was TWG. Probably.
PWG.
Okay. Andre's like, whenever I order the iced full tea leaf at CBTL, I ask that they leave the tea bag in the drink. So if I refill it with water, my tea flavor. But
Yeah,
that's valid. Or it's like and I've done something similar with like when you're or like Chinese restaurants, you ask them to refill the pot or
and that's okay. It's
Yeah.
just that there are freaky stories of some people who do put it in Tupperware and they'll use it some days later.
I feel like that's not valid. It's like your coffee. It's you use your coffee filter, coffee machine, whatever, and then you don't add more coffee, and you use the same filter with the same grounds. It's not gonna go well. Okay. Kenny's like, how do you prepare your tea? We are not fancy in the tea department, so it is tea bag in water, then drink. It's like we don't add milk, we don't add sugar. It is tea bag and water. To be fair, the tea variants we tend to have because at home I would only stock 4 red fruits, ginger and lemon, and now recently cacao tea. And that's it. Cacao. Warning.
So some tea trivia. It's not true that iced tea was invented in 1904 at the St. Louis
World Fair.
Allegedly, a merchant named Richard Black was struggling to sell his tea, so he poured it over ice and it became a winner. The real story, however, is more around 1877 in a book called Housekeeping in Old Virginia. Someone named Marion Cabell Tyree lists iced tea as one of the recipes.
Mm.
And then Earl Grey tea was thought to have been named after Earl Charles Grey.
Okay.
At the time, he was the prime minister during the mid 19th century. He requested for a type of tea he had drunk from a local merchant while visiting China.
That's interesting, and that's Picard's drink.
Mhm.
Okay. So Mitch likes honey more. Kenny likes adding milk and honey. And then I said for in TWG, highly recommend the iced vanilla bourbon. It's so good. Okay. The funny thing about TWG, whenever we go to TWG, we never remember what we had before.
Mhm.
And it's always this long, like, pretending to really study the menu, when in truth, we're trying to look for something that looks familiar.
Or sounds less threatening.
Yeah.
Because you'd have stuff like moon, dragon, sunrise, and you're like, okay, that sounds fruity. We're not sure, and we're shy to ask.
Yeah. And then it's always like, and I don't know. And I don't want to just order an Earl Grey.
Because it's a chance to try something different.
Yeah, because we're trying to try something different. And then, but then it's like, it's always that commitment that, oh my God, you're going to get this tea and that's it. That's the only tea you're going to get. And then, because it seems weird to order a second, like to have two pots for yourself and then Toby has another two pots, just so that we try different flavors. Probably not at those prices. So we'll just have, we'll just commit to one and kind of roll with it. We haven't really gone back to TWG since I started keto.
Yes.
Because we used to go when there were promotions for tea time for the tea merienda type service, which has the 3-layer thing, and that's always fun. But when you're on keto, none of those desserts make sense, and then so you just it's weird to go just for tea.
Mhm.
So I don't know.
So there's also this legend, supposedly, that ancient China had monkeys that were trained to pick tea leaves. This is
Really?
a ongoing legend, but then while monkeys actually were used to harvest stuff like coconuts, it was unlikely that monkeys
Because like
would be
tea is
smart
so
enough
delicate.
to pick up tea leaves. However, supposedly you can still find some that label their tea as monkey picked. So it's
That's a scam. That
Mm.
sounds like a scam.
That
Okay.
sounds like food that is healthier for you.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Mitch, like for better experience, use a glass or ceramic cup, not those styro. Then pour hot water first before placing the tea bag. It heats the cup to get the temperature, gives a deeper flavor.
Mhm.
I did not know that. I always put the tea bag in first and pour hot water over it. I spend more time tying the. I like to loop the tea bag around the handle so that it doesn't just fall in. But that's me. Okay, so we could try that. My frustration, because when you don't pour the hot water over it, is that the
Mhm.
tea bag floats.
Yeah.
Then you have like your cup has a hat because the tea bag is just floating on top, and then you have to jam it down.
Now, sad but true, most tea bags do have plastics.
Mm.
As much as you'd like to think tea is the kinder to the world solution because it's not like coffee that uses pods and all this and that, every tea bag does have a bit of plastic in it. Sorry.
So we flip the script then. What I've always been intimidated about is loose leaf tea. And my mom went that far. Like I know one Christmas I got her there's a particular tea she likes at TWG, which now I can't remember what it is. Uh-oh. And then I got her a fancy TWG like tea scoop thing, the little mesh tweezers, which also acts as the diffuser.
Mhm.
So there's that, but I've never gotten to the point where I felt like I was confident enough to have loose leaf because I always worried that we wouldn't finish it in time, and then it would go bad.
Mm.
Because the leaves would just be there.
They're
I
not
don't know.
processed or something.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why that feels.
I always feel weird about it kasi parang,
But if you have
If you-
a
if you do it
nice
well.
tea service, then you won't
Yeah,
have leaves
but
in
then
your
you'll
tea.
always have the smaller bits, and it's yung,
And yet I don't have that problem with coffee.
No, you still do.
No, I mean like I don't mind drinking the coffee
True,
bits.
that's true. And then worse, you might be someone who's into stuff, so you're staring now at the cup with all the tea leaves and grinds, and you're suddenly realizing you can look at your future.
I thought that would motivate you to drink tea.
Only if you want to know it.
Okay.
So RJ asks, "What's the tea?"
Kenny's asking, what's the fanciest tea experience you guys have had?
I think it's that one.
It's definitely TWG. So
Mhm.
we've gone to TWG at least 3 times in our lives. Two of
Yes.
them in Singapore at Marina Bay Sands, largely because we didn't know where else to eat, and so we would eat at TWG because Marina Bay Sands has all the super fancy Michelin star restaurants, and we didn't want to splurge. And the lunch, the tea time set
Mhm.
was like pretty affordable for the price compared to everything else. So definitely that, and then I like that little service and the weird little like the tea. It's a ceramic teapot, but then they put it in this metal holder.
Mhm.
So then it had like it's like Iron Man, but tea.
Yeah, but at the same time, we were always worried. Can we like ask them to refill it? We don't know if it's bad form to do so. But then, do we now look like the hoity people who just use their pot once and they leave despite how expensive it was? We don't know. Cultural differences, I'm afraid.
Yeah, so
But we
that's
still
our
enjoyed it.
we definitely enjoyed it. And then like I like macarons, but I don't know if it's because we'd always try different flavors.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay. It tastes sort of minty. It tastes sort of I think the most redundant is when we got a tea macaron. And then it was like, yeah,
Mhm.
it tastes like tea. Okay. And it's so funny because it would normally get 3, I think,
Yeah.
in the tea service, and we would cut each in half
So we could
so that
share.
we could both taste each
So
flavor.
we taste 6. Because I get 3, you get 3, but then we cut it in half.
No, we'd only get one. We'd only get one set, one tower.
Mm.
We didn't get 2 towers.
Did we get 2 towers that
No.
other time? Ah, no, we got the cake. We tried the cake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it was like it's the macarons and then
The cake and the sandwich.
Yeah, and then it's like sandwiches
Yeah.
and then some scone type thing.
Right.
Okay. Mitch like, oh, remember those tea steeping time varies on the color of the tea.
Mhm.
That is true, and we are terrible at this because I tend to drink it with the tea bag still in the cup.
Mhm.
For all my like quote unquote sophistication with coffee, I am not that way with tea. Funnily enough, tea is like I'm very consumer with tea.
Rehan mentions, love
like
the tea,
ginger.
the ginger.
That's true, though.
Ginger, salabat, sobrang nice. I always like how it really does comfort.
You do feel better,
It's weird how it...
and it's such a
like a
strong,
massage. A
like
massage of your
spicy flavor.
Mhm.
So I super appreciate.
But
that.
it's spicy, different from pepper.
Yeah, or mint.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a heat that is like quite comforting, and then because like we also like the ginger bun candy,
Mm.
but then the ginger and lemon tea that we get, so that's Twinnings. That's pretty good.
So here's a list of some unusual tea that's listed on the website.
Okay.
So first is Russian brick tea. So it originates from Russia, and it's prepared in this manner. The tea leaves are compressed into hard rock tablets. So they're sort of like how sugar cubes are used.
Okay.
You toss the tablet in, and then you wait for it to dissolve. But then you have to grate off a corner of the tablet. That way it's exposed and it will start disintegrating.
Oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. Because if not, it's like it's a
Mm.
a partly watertight seal. Okay.
Then you have blue tea. Blue tea is among the mysterious types of tea that can be found in the world. The blue color of the tea is what makes it stand out. It's a product of Thailand and made of dried butterfly pea flowers. Has a
Okay.
flowery taste that's enhanced with a splash of lemon.
So okay. Side note: I've always had a weird experience with the super flowery teas. So things
Yes.
like the lavender and the and
Chrysanthemum.
yeah, it always just felt like I guess because maybe the coffee person in me is looking for a stronger hit
Mhm.
kick, and then the flower teas don't give me that.
My problem with the flower teas is twofold.
Okay.
On one side, the flower makes me think it's supposed to be fruity, but hindi umabot.
But it's not quite there.
So then it starts tasting like perfume. And I'm like, why am I drinking perfume?
I get that association. Like
And then the second problem is instead of perfume naman, the flower makes me think of how I used to crush gumamelas to make the water more malapot when you make bubbles.
sorry, what?
Yes. You crush gumamela flowers, so the sticky sap mixes with your bubbly water, your soapy water. So when you make bubbles, You can actually poke it and it'll bounce. It doesn't pop.
Wow, this seems like a very niche application of flowers.
Does anyone do that before? Crush gumamela flowers to make your bubble water stronger.
Kenny agrees. Sometimes it's like drinking downy. Yes. The super flowery, especially if it's very strong, pungent
And
flowers.
um, there are more feminine facing perfume that
Mm.
are that type of floral scents. So when you drink the tea, parang parang ex girlfriend.
God, can't relate.
Gumamela bubble. See? Oh, you didn't know about the gumamela thing. See, that's because you're so bizarre tea number 3, bubble tea.
Finish that sentence.
Over the years, bubble tea has transformed to different distinct types. People like new and fun innovations. So, bubble tea is a cold drink that started supposedly in Taiwan in the 80s. And what's more popular now is they use milk, fruits, tea base, and chewy tapioca. So, yes, this is your milk tea, people. Um, then you have the loose leaf herbal teas, one of them being tomato mint tea. How strange. So tomato mint tea is a savory tea. Its primary component is tomato with added mint flavor. Excuse me. It's similar to drinking a broth. So isn't this a soup?
This sounds like it's like watered down minestrone, or
It's light tomato notes, ginger, and hints of sweet beet. And don't forget a dash of vodka.
what? Okay,
I want to try this.
I feel like then you're just making an alcoholic drink.
Think of it as a tea-based Bloody Mary.
Okay,
Then we have Panda Dong Tea.
Oh no.
It costs around $3,500 for 50 grams. It's got its name from its preparation mode. Panda dung is used as fertilizer for the growth of the tea leaves. Yun lang naman
Okay,
pala.
it's not as bad as
Ugh.
civet.
I thought it was like civet, pero from the pupu of the panda. Then we have awabanka. Comes from the Japanese island Shikoku.
Myanmar has
Has a high consumption of the tea. It's as a pickled salad or condiment.
Named Lafette.
It uses the fermentation process that's done with the help of lactic acid bacteria. Okay.
I don't know if I get into fermented teas. That sounds very strange.
And then finally in the list we have wrestling of dragon and tiger. An unusual kind of tea that attracts people because of its aromatic smell and potent content. It's made of a mixture of black tea and alcohol. Brandy is mostly used as
I
it
feel like
provides
you're
excellent
cheating when
taste.
there's alcohol in your tea drink. And then it's like, then you're just having alcohol. Okay. Mitch mentioned, speaking of chrysanthemum, there is a Siberian chrysanthemum tea. It's a bit expensive because the
Mhm.
flower blooms only every 2 years. Yeah, there's always like stuff like that. Like, ooh, something super rare. Let's make a meal out of it and then charge more.
I remember we had rose tea,
Um,
and that was weird.
I'm not into that.
Yeah.
So I think in general, Toby and I definitely are not super into flower. But it's funny because I did like some of the chrysanthemum teas at the convenience store,
Mm.
right? So like together with the lemon barley,
The iced teas.
the iced
Yeah.
tea and the chrysanthemum.
Because the floralness works with cold. It kind of makes it feel like a refreshing
and a
drink.
dollop of sugar.
But then when
apparently.
it's flowery warm, it just has that weird feeling.
And it's supposed to make you. I mean, so a lot of their sleepy time teas, which is like lavender
Mhm.
and all these things to help you relax and that.
Have you guys experienced blooming tea balls?
No idea. Let's look. What is a blooming?
I don't know,
Tea
and I'm
ball.
afraid to check. Oh, and Kenny, just to add, have you ever tried deep fried gumamela? Pretty good.
Let me.
Okay, we're looking now at blooming tea balls.
But first, it's another Valorant.
I can't help but feel this is like a shower bomb for tea.
Okay,
So it's like it becomes a flower.
Oh, it's it's
it
folded
opens up to a flower
Okay.
like thing. I like the version of this which opens up to a shark. Yeah, there is.
Shark. Oh my god, it's so strange though. It looks very alien.
Yeah, because it looks like a really open flower afterwards.
Yeah. So the short answer is no. We have never tried blooming tea balls, and I
Mhm.
don't know if I would want to try this. Noel is like, would that be called Irish tea? That's a good question, but I don't. But Irish people don't have tea as much. I don't know, or at least it's not an alcohol combination. Yeah, and that's they have their coffee. So when they be satisfied with that? I don't know. Okay. It's like also yung mga flower teas, dapat unti lang ilagay. Mga
And
1 to 4 pieces lang na flowers kasi strong na yung beyond.
see,
So it becomes bitter.
it's the shape of a shark there.
It's a tea bag. It's a tea bag that's the shape of a shark. It's not like a
Yeah, and
blooming
then it's
tea
a
thing.
red tea, so it's like
Okay. Okay. Noel shares like he has a Ternity plant. His mom and sister mix it with their water and take it like tea. Kenny is more surprised at your fried gumamela.
yeah,
Mention.
that was served at a beach outing down south, the San Juan area where we went with Iman before.
Okay.
So it was a company outing. No, sorry. It was an outing with my former boss at ABS because she knew the owner.
Okay.
And one of the food they served were these parang tempura fried stuff. And we were like, it's vegetables. And then, this one's interesting. Then we looked at the flour. So that was nice.
So it's interesting when you think about it that the original tea is specifically from one plant, but then
Yes.
now
We
it's a
we
it's a
steep everything.
it's a preparation where you
Yeah.
can steep so many other things, ranging from fruit to flowers to cacao beans, cacao tea, cacao. But I super love cacao tea, and I'm like, I had to slow down drinking it because we haven't my supplier hasn't restocked.
So it's like, sinigang, where there's guava and then sampalok and then it's the preparation now and not the ingredients that make it what it is.
Oh wow. At cacaoteaco.com, they call cacao tea as one of the world's best kept secrets. Okay, that's something, but it's quite good. I'm glad there's a local supplier. I don't know. Can you think of any other strange teas that you may have tried personally?
Not much. I mean, they're probably gonna fall under the milk tea category because that's where I'm a bit more.
You always keep trying these things out.
But then I don't think they're really counting as milk tea anymore. I think they're just milk tea in name in terms
Milk
of
tea
preparation.
flavor.
No, in preparation.
Okay.
But I think the content itself is barely tea na and more just milk and something else. Because a lot of them are like, they're chocolate milk tea. But then if you look at it, wala na talagang tea. It's just the chocolate and the milk and the ganyan.
It's sort of like the other quickly variants that sometimes they don't even have the taro as the base anymore.
Taro officially is not a milk tea. Quickly is officially not a milk tea.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And then and then there's also like the Thai like orange tea, which my sister really liked. So whenever we go out and they're like, oh, you want iced tea? And then like, huh? And then it's like Thai iced tea, and okay, it's like it's a richer, sort of thicker flavor with a lot more milk. But then I don't know, and like even before my keto transition,
Mhm.
it's like I think because it occupies a certain headspace where I like my tea to be sort of in the same space as coffee, then that's why I didn't really like the flower ones. And then I never got into milk tea. I used to drink chai tea lattes for a while at Starbucks only because I was trying to ironically cut down on my coffee,
Mhm.
but then I was still having caffeine. So and just so that I would order something different at Starbucks and like that people couldn't mess up, and then I didn't have to make timpla because a chai tea latte, tastes pretty nice on its own. I
Mhm.
think I made you try a chai tea
Yeah.
latte before.
That was okay.
Okay, but yeah. So now it's like I keep tea for evening drinking, and then normally it's like after dinner, and I'll be like, "You want some tea?" And then I just heat water and go at it.
Mhm.
And then now that I have the cacao tea, then that's like an option. And more often than not, Toby gets ginger, lemon ginger, and then we just make sure to stock that. And then I guess we're gonna slowly phase out Four Red, like we haven't restocked our
Yeah.
Four Red. Oh my god, it's Mon.
Hey,
Mon.
Mon, you might want to share any of the weirdest teas or the recommended teas that you like.
Yeah, because okay, and then, like we're definitely not like super tea people. So like
Mhm.
Mitch, because you brought this topic up, then I feel like you have a more complex tea
Mhm.
arrangement at home. So what teas do you have at home? It's a question to the audience. Mitch primarily, but anyone else can jump in. And like, what teas do you maintain at home? Uh, is it just tea bags? Is it also loose leaf?
Mhm.
I don't know.
So while waiting for responses, online there's a site that listed some of the more popular local flavors.
Okay.
So if England has English breakfast, India has chai, China has jasmine, the Philippines have the following. So we have ginger and turmeric tea.
Which is salabat.
Yeah. We have blue ternate tea,
Oh, that's what
which is
Noel
the
was
blue
saying.
butterfly pea flower. We have pandan tea.
Oh, that's true. That's a
Mhm.
tea. Okay. Okay.
So chilled pandan tea is a welcoming refreshment. So again, pandan is one of those drinks that you've been having without realizing it's a tea.
And they're saying it could be a tea. Okay.
There's lemongrass tea, which is tanglad for locals.
Hmm.
So in as much as we'd like to think lemongrass became popular because of Starbucks or whatever, we've been
I
having.
thought it became popular because of massage parlors.
But anyway, we've been having it around much sooner than
Yeah.
most realize.
Oh,
There's dragon fruit tea,
dragon fruit tea.
which I don't know what it tastes like because I
Because
remember
dragon fruit's like,
has no taste.
yeah, it's not very distinct. Okay, that's interesting.
There's malunggay
Oh my
tea,
god, yeah, malunggay tea. Okay.
which
And-
always makes me think it's like, well, not tinola, but
it's in the same
no, what
neighborhood.
is that soup that has malunggay?
Well, you can also
The
make
shell soup, right?
the shells.
The one that has the clams.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah. But you can also use malunggay for tinola. I just prefer chili leaves.
Yeah. And then calamansi, of course. I love calamansi.
But as a tea, what makes it a tea and not a juice?
Because
Interesting. Because they say it's a tea.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
And then there's Palawan energy drink, which is a mix of calamansi, honey, and kamote.
Okay, that doesn't sound like a tea anymore.
Mhm.
Okay. Whatever. Okay. So Mitch says she has loose leaf for oolong, green tea powder, and tea bags. Oh
Mhm.
wow, that's a lot. That's like, I mean, and then of course Mitch like mostly green tea and rooibos tea. I don't know what that is. Okay, that's beyond my Mitch translation ability.
Mhm.
Okay,
Kenny asks, no oregano tea. I don't think there
is
is
that a
any.
thing?
Is there such a thing?
Oh my god, there is oregano tea. You can use the same dried oregano used for cooking. Oh my god.
It's starting to feel like anything that you can boil.
anything you can steep in
is
water
now a
is
tea.
tea.
Because I know there were also those supposedly cure-alls. There were those certain leaves that if you steam it and drink it and it's super bitter, it's supposed to cure your diabetes or it's supposed to help with your. So there's a lot of that. There's a lot of herbal cure-alls, some valid, some not.
Yeah, I'm trying to look at the whole. What's this? So there's the term herbal tea, which refers to drinks not made from Carmelia sinensis, infusions of fruit, leaves, or other plant parts, such as the steeps of rosehip, chamomile, or, as Mitch mentioned, rooibos. What are those? Anyway,
Mhm.
those may be called tisanes or herbal infusions to prevent confusion with tea made from the tea plant. I see that too. That they call them infusions,
Yes.
and they're not officially tea. Like
Which
you're super specific.
Which I guess is sort of like how whiskey is different from what is that other one, which is specifically from a certain place.
Oh, good night, Rehan. Okay.
Nitrahan. Remember, there's that alcohol which, if it's this, it's
Yeah,
called
yeah.
that. But if it's from specifically from this Scotch yata, is different from ganyan.
Yeah.
Parang there's those locations.
Obviously, we're not alcohol snobs either. Tarragon tea is good, apparently, says Mitch. The leaf and hot water, good for digestion. Okay. Okay. And then, Noel's like, Lola Remedios nga ginagawa ding tea. that is that.
So there was supposedly a Kamyas tea.
Oh, and of course, it's like at the top headline is that it is not a cure for COVID, and malunggay tea does not cure COVID. Let's reiterate these things.
The London juice, not tea.
Okay, okay. Uh, Sad. Blippy. I guess I really have to go through the troubleshooting steps that they have. It's a lot of like clear your cache style things, but I don't know if that's really going to address
But you
it.
haven't.
I haven't quite. It's just a
Okay.
long list, and it's like, what's this? They want me to run a stream not connected and then run diagnostics.
Mm.
It's not fun It's like it's really like watch your stream rate and something.
So yeah, the system is acting up again, as you can all see. And well, the tea is it's still a free service, so we're not really complaining. We are complaining that it's happening, but we're not really complaining and looking for a different place yet. It is tempting to consider like separating from Restream and trying something else, but
Or just committing to YouTube. I don't
Yeah.
know.
but there is that question of the extra effort it will have to be to connect it to the different streams and all that. So let's talk about spilling the tea.
Yeah, we're looking it up. So we're trying to find if there's an origin for it. So, according to Merriam-Webster, the phrase originated in drag culture but had little to do with the actual drink. One of the first known uses of the phrase was in a nonfiction novel called Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Oh my God, that turned into a movie. Published in 1994. In the novel, Merritt interviews a drag queen who says, "My tea, my thing, my business, what's going on in my life." The phrase spread from there and began to take hold in the internet age of the 21st century.
So tea here was used as thing. My
Mm.
tea is my thing.
The phrase became widely known through multiple media mediums. The comedian Larry Wilmore used the phrase on the nightly show, saying "weak tea" to call out someone for lying.
Mhm.
Tea is used as interchangeably with the letter T on RuPaul's Drag Race, obviously. Um, One origin theory held by many is that women in the 18th and early 19th century would sit on their front porches and gossip while drinking tea. But
Mhm.
this theory, oh my god,
Yeah.
this article is so funny,
Well,
had very little tea to it.
so I feel that's less likely, only because no one really calls it what they're doing that moment. Diba? I mean, we don't call talking about people inuman tayo because we're drinking.
There is that.
Whereas using tea as a substitution seems more likely. So what's the tea? What's the truth? What's the thing? That kind of does feel more likely as the roots.
But it's definitely accepted that it means, gossiping.
Yeah.
And
Now.
then, yeah, that's like the understanding now. And it may not have to have an origin. It's sort of like how in Swartz speak, in local gay lingo, a lot of phrase choices are phonetic.
Yes.
And you just like the sound of it.
It helps shorten the communication and still have it there. I mean, we all know what D means.
And now that's like giving way to emoji speaking,
Mhm.
and hence eggplant, eggplant emoji, sweat emoji, whatever. It's like language adapts to the new media that's coming around, and then so spilling the tea and is kind of just out there. And then definitely things like RuPaul's Drag Race, Paris is Burning, and then whether you attribute it more to drag culture or to African American culture, I mean, there's a lot of things.
And there's a lot to unpack there because there's always was it co-opted by one culture, by one subculture from another subculture, and therefore it still is wrong, or is it just because language ultimately is something that does evolve based on how it is used?
Yeah,
Hence, literally, it doesn't make sense.
and then there's a Twitter thread I retweeted like a few weeks ago where even things like that's the tweet and whatever they're arguing that it's actually cultural appropriation of more African American or minority speak, and then we should move away from it. But then I think it like the genie's out of the bottle. Like I don't think there's going to be any moving away because it's become part of popular culture and people are just running with it.
Mhm.
So even like the way that you have a lot of people on Twitter primarily like using the word child like CHILE because it was said a lot on recent seasons of RuPaul's Drag Race. But then like even then like that one I definitely felt like ooh that feels uncomfortable because you're definitely impersonating you know an African American woman's
Mhm.
terminology. So yeah, tricky. So I don't think that the the spill the tea
Mhm.
statement will ever have a clear like official origin, but we're definitely at a point where it has a common understood meaning, and we just run with it. Whether it's perfectly fair or not to use it, I don't know. I'm not one to
Mhm.
say, but then I think we're at a point where it's hard not to use it, like because it's so common and
Mhm.
popular.
I always feel nervous for the long term. I understand the need to protect when the appropriation happens, but I feel there are certain levels of appropriation of certain cultures which are not necessarily negative
Mm.
because to be wholly protective of a culture to the point that no one except those of that culture can express, celebrate, or um, approach it starts leaning towards the marginalization of purism in the sense of if you're not white, then you shouldn't be here.
Yeah, or
And that
it's
echo,
kind of going back to like Chinese isolationist
yeah,
thinking,
and
and
it's scary because
yeah,
it's not the same thing, but the parallels can be made if you look at it in a certain perspective, and that's scary because some might use that perspective as a reason to push it. So yeah, it's delicate and it's scary, and I really don't like it. Um,
yeah. So it's like little moments like how in American English there is the term
mhm,
boondock or the
mhm,
boonies, which refers to mountains. And yes, the commonly accepted origin for that is that boondock is literally American saying bundok
mhm,
because of their time in the Philippines. And so, there is always this cultural exchange happening all the time for there are loan words that get adopted. And then the same thing with like slang and things like that. So
yeah.
there is that.
And sometimes it then leads to for example, we all know in the Philippines, high five is appear, which is really a corruption of up here.
Yes.
So does that mean
That look weird,
so
sorry.
dors that mean we're wrong to use it because it's originally English?
Yeah.
But then
American.
it's
Yeah.
very culturally us na to say appear.
Yes. APIR.
So
Even.
so then that's when it gets muddy when you have to say, but the roots are ganyan and it's rooted to colonize. But at the same time, it's a very distinct identity that allows us to say this is us.
Yeah.
So
But ultimately, we are not experts on this
yes.
subject, and the internet is of the firm opinion that non-experts really shouldn't
Mm.
weigh in on these things. So, okay, we're gonna now back away. We just said our piece, and we are not trying to enforce it or impose it upon
Mm.
you. And that's the tea. Ha ha ha! Irony. Okay. So, anything else on tea, the drink, tea, the language, phrase, whatever? Do you want tea later?
Yeah, I think tea later would be nice. Oh, and if you've ever wondered why our opening song has a duck in the background, it's more than just a homage to our timer.
Was there a time we were trying to make a theme song for them? Tiger
Mm-hmm.
and Duck
Mm-hmm.
have their go on
Mm-hmm.
adventures.
Now they're on an adventure right now. They're in the show.
Oh God, you're so proud of yourself, aren't you?
They wanted to meet the new resident.
Hmm. Of course, of course. Okay. Toby used to sneak him into my luggage all the time when I have business trips, and then I realized that technically it means that on the like the customs declaration form where you answer like, did you pack your own luggage? Apparently, I did not because there's a tiger and a duck in my luggage. All right, all right. Are you proud of yourself? Are you happy?
Well, if we play the intro one more time, yes.
We'll play the intro one more time. Sure. Let me cue it because I have to cue it every time we do this.
Oh yeah. Baduy Pride.
So I guess that's our episode. We've spent more than an hour talking about tea, whether it's the drink, whether it's stuff that we are not experts of, and our
Or
own.
it's like infusion drinks that are not made from the tea plant.
So I guess ultimately we're just infusions. We're not experts, but we tried to still talk about it and cover it in this episode.
Oh, and you have to like get around to trying your cold tea infusion
yeah,
gift.
yeah. Thank you so much for that.
Toby's been like
Haven't
wary
gotten-
about how to start.
Because I'm afraid I'll do it wrong.
Yeah, that's
and then,
always that.
and then I'll be like, okay, it's a soup of leaves. And they're like, no, you're supposed to keep it in the ganyan. And I'm like, oops. But that's me. That's always me. But yeah, we had a lot of fun talking about this topic. Thank you so much, Mitch, again, for sending this topic in. We hope more people continue to give us more things to look over and consider.
And even better to participate in these live streams and
Mhm.
conversation. Because I mean the real fun of doing this show is not what we have to share, but then what we end up discovering together. So that I firmly believe.
I wonder if anyone tried to make talong tea.
Isn't that a soup?
Probably.
I just put talong in our sinigang. What do you
Okay,
want
so
to happen?
that's all the time we have for this episode. Thank you so much for watching.
If you have questions or suggestions for future episodes, fill up the Google form at bit.ly Baduy Pride Ideas. You can follow us on Twitter, Altobi No Shade, RG Sunico.
You can also check out our blog, baduypride.com, for all the previous episodes and stuff about us.
Keep moving the camera now. Feel free to continue the conversation in the comments below and let us know more about your favorite tea preparation, tea types, or just the tea on tea.
Or the t-shirt.
That's terrible.
Or the muscle
That's
tea.
just terrible. That's just terrible.
That's the ducks.
Be sure to subscribe for notifications, whether on Facebook or YouTube, so you don't miss our next live stream. Once again, I'm Rocky.
And I'm Toby. And
And
this is Baduy Pride.